And I didn't need to be that intense. It all would come together, even without being the intensity I had. And that would be my thing. And things are going to work out. I eventually got there, and I would say, don't worry about it, Don't worry, be happy.
Awesome.
And
Welcome to Discourse with Christian. I'm your host, Christian White, and today we have Bob Kulakowski. Bob is the CEO of FutureTV. He possesses a background ranging from media to security, as well as software. And Bob is here today to share his story, his journey, lessons learned in the trenches, as well as what he's currently working on today. Bob, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Christian, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
For those in the audience who are not familiar with you, Bob, could you perhaps start off sharing your background, people and events early on in life that kind of shaped you into who you are today?
Okay, yeah. So my interest in electronics started when I was at around 7th grade. I was repairing a light and I forgot to unplug it, cut the cord, huge spark, and literally that was the spark that got me involved in electronics. So it was an accident as a kid. Went on and just have been a geek ever since, and have built companies doing a lot of video security, pay TV security, streaming, satellite, cable TV, and so just been a geek since a little kid. One of the things that was very interesting in the early 1980s, I went and left big corporate world and started consulting and met up with a group of pretty talented people out of top-tier universities, and we all started building products together. And so in that time, we were kind of considered the top developers in San Diego, and the industry was exploding. So it was a lot of good camaraderie, a lot of good intellectual stimulation. And from that, I made really good friends who I'm still friends with now, 20, 30 years later, just in the software development.
Could you share perhaps some of the challenges, or perhaps a person or two that kind of helped you on your journey, or kind of shaped who you are in this in this industry and background that you possess?
Yeah, a really talented marketing engineering developer. We used to call it marketeering. His name is Marco Thompson in San Diego. I was kind of a nerdy geek, and he started asking me engineering equation problems, and I was able to answer them, and he said very few people could answer that. And so I became part of his inner team of 12 engineers who really did many, many projects in the video world in the 90s and early 2000s. And yeah, Marco taught me a lot about marketing myself, actually. So we used to call it Marco-teering, as I said. He's very influential, still a friend, and just some other developers, a lot of guys I still ski with and surf with, going 30 plus years. So San Diego is a hotbed of talent. And
I wonder, obviously, San Diego, I used to live there in San Diego at one point. Obviously, large military presence. I presume, a lot of, has that at all played a role in helping you and the company, in the sense that you have a pool of people to draw from, or talent? I mean, could you share about perhaps, maybe, the location of San Diego and how that's played a role, or could you unpack maybe other things that were accretive to your development?
Yeah, so San Diego became a hotbed for set-top box development and video. You had like Video Cipher, you had people doing early HD TV. In the 90s, late 90s, HD TV was just really in its infancy, and most of that technology came out of the San Diego area. And so really the focus for us was video and set-top boxes, TVs, video displays, and it was more about the consumer side of delivering video. And from there, I went and co-founded a company called Verimatrix in the pay TV security. And we use the motto of, we model online banking for video security. We're overkill, but it's protection you're going to need in the future. And we took that company from 0 to 103 million in software revenue. and then the company sold. I wanted the company to build the platform that I built now at FutureTV, and they didn't want to do that. So I went off and just did it on my own with a group of really talented developers, and we have a world-class piece of software that is deployed globally, very reliable, and we're scaling the company up based on the growth of the streaming industry.
Now, currently today, obviously, there's a lot of changes going on. Could you unpack or share your current thoughts and, kind of the trajectory of your work and such? Obviously, no one has a crystal ball, but what are your thoughts, currently?
Oh, it's great. When I go to lunch with some of my old school friends, and we go back, many years, I tell them the kind of streaming we can do now from a single server, and they can't believe it. Like, for example, from a small server, we can stream 200,000 concurrent video streams, live HD video from a single platform. Before that was 40 servers. So the whole scale of streaming is just exploded recently, and the expectations of the customer. I don't want any buffering. I don't want, I don't want a lot of power wasted. We have a very energy efficient system. In fact, I think it's one of the most efficient on the planet. So it's really been about scale, and it's been about the huge growth in streaming. I mean, I think the statistics are today it's like a $23 billion software market growing to $60 billion. So, and then people are saying, okay, I'm streaming now, I want to monetize that with advertising. So we have a great advertising platform. So really, it's been in the last 2 or 3 years, the explosion in streaming has just been amazing. And globally, we do a lot globally. And what happens is in most of the world, it's cheaper to deploy fiber and get very high bandwidth broadband than deploying coax, which is your traditional cable. So the explosion of broadband has been phenomenal. And what happens when you have broadband? You have so much bandwidth, you need to use it. So what they do, the operators put on video. So we're doing a lot with video content creators, content owners, content streaming. And so we do a lot in the content world because they have so much bandwidth now, they need something to fill it up, and content is king.
Absolutely. And, I was just listening to a podcast the other day where the gentleman mentioned about how the only thing constant in life is change. That's the one constant from what I've got. I don't know that was Socrates or one of the Greek philosophers, but I just thought it was interesting how everything is just constantly evolving. There's a constant iteration, and how, I'm sure for somebody, growing up in the mid 20th century and such, how all this changed, all the stuff that's gone on. I mean, how from, a lot of the power and such was vested in TV, whether it's the companies, of course, media, like there was a hegemony. It was very consolidated, if you will. Obviously, before my time, I guess there were only 3 channels or 4 channels.
That was my time.
Yeah,
3 channels.
Yeah,
and we used to watch the UHF channels, which were all snowy, and we would watch soccer games. I played soccer in high school and college, and it would look like every game there was snow, even though it was in South America or Central America, because it's all interference. So yeah, 3 channels were typical.
Yeah, and then today, to your point, how streaming and how it's democratized a lot. It seems it's given people a voice or a platform who may otherwise not have that, because there's not a gatekeeper so much.
That's right. Yeah, the explosion of YouTube. Just any kind of content you want, you can get it on YouTube. Their streaming platform is amazing. And what else is interesting is that user-generated content for regional areas is becoming very important because, YouTube, they go for the big content influencers, but the regional people are getting more promoted by smaller companies, smaller operators in those regions, because now they're helping to build the ecosystem for that region. So we're seeing a lot of growth in user-generated content. And also the great thing is now you can monetize that with what's called fast advertising. Fast is free advertising supported TV. So with free TV, now you're not even paying a monthly subscription. you're agreeing to watch ads to get great content. And so fast is the future of streaming, really, because now you don't have to be tied to, $100 a month payment. You can see the channels you want, you watch the ads, or you can opt out and pay a little more and get no ads. So the whole opportunity for content producers is amazing. And then you tie in AI and AI with content production and with creative assistance to people who have vision. Now you're exploding the content.
Could you have predicted, perhaps years ago, more or less kind of the direction that we're going, particularly with streaming?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, back in 2008, I was saying that once fiber becomes cheap enough, streaming is going to take over the world. Forget satellite, forget cable. Those days are gone. But I didn't realize it was going to happen so rapidly in other parts of the world, because the U.S. being kind of early in the broadband, they still have a lot of copper broadband, and that's slow. But other parts of the world, they're deploying fiber much faster, and now the U.S. is catching up with redeploying fiber and advanced types of copper-based streaming. But yeah, I foresaw, but I didn't see like a YouTube become so huge in terms of any kind of content. I didn't have the creativity in the content area, but in the platform, yeah, I saw that coming early on.
It kind of reminds me of, what's his name, of it's a Salesforce. I'm blanking out on the guy who started it. How he mentioned how everything is going to the cloud, and this was like, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. How it's like it went from more archaic ways of uploading information to now it's so much is cloud based, and how now it's streaming. Is there going to be another iteration as it relates to that? Is it going to evolve into something else, or is streaming going to be here for probably the next couple decades?
It's going to be decades and longer, because now your phones can handle video. The 5G networks are now becoming really high bit rate networks for video. Basically, you're just going to be inundated with choices on what to watch, and part of that is curating. So part of what we do, I'm not a big proponent of AI as a buzzword, but for curating and for things like English speech to text to translation, we do a lot in Indonesia. So the Bahasa language, we take U.S. movies, take the English speech and voices, convert it to English text, then do translation into Bahasa, the local language in Indonesia, and we only incur a 2-second delay in the live video stream. So these types of technologies are going to help the reach of content, and people are just going to have, so specialized content. If I like fishing, I can see nothing but fishing channels. If I like surfing, I can see curated surfing channels. That's the kind of curation we're bringing, and AI makes sense for that. And AI also, makes sense for like the TikTok world. TikTok, 15 seconds. That's my attention span now. So we're condensing down content into 3-minute, 30-minute show down to 3-minute TikTok-like presentations for that generation that has no attention span.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry to say that, but
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I've even found challenging at times as I have been on my content creation journey, which is, you'll produce a reel or something, and, I guess one might argue, does it resonate with the audience and so on and so forth. But, unless it catches someone that first 1 or 2 seconds, they're gone. I mean, it's just incredible. And how it's wired our brain. And I know we can go off on a tangent here, but just how, streaming and social media, how it's just really changed society. It seems. I don't know if you have any comments that you'd like to share or observations.
Yeah, it's more social media than streaming, but it's just that whole social media thing. I want to have a constant little adrenaline hit of excitement. So,
yeah, people are wanting that dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
To keep them going and such. Could you share unpack more about FutureTV, what you're excited about, what you want people to understand?
Yeah. So the great thing about FutureTV, my team, we have literally 150 plus years of video and streaming and security background. And so we're a small company, but we're dominating in certain markets because we have world-class technology. We compete against companies that have 400 or 500 engineers. We can beat them, but we also have disruptive pricing for the rest of the world. So what's really exciting is dominating. I'm not here just to build a company. I'm here to dominate countries, and we're doing great in Indonesia. We'll be opening up the Philippines. We'll be bringing out a new service in the U.S. So for me, the exciting thing is not so much building another company. My last company I co-founded sold for 100 million plus. It's more about dominating. I want to dominate Indonesia, Philippines, Africa. We're starting to light up Africa. And what I mean by that is we want to be the third largest platform in a country. So when you look at Indonesia, you've got Netflix, you've got Amazon, then you have 50 other little guys. We're aggregating those 50 little guys so we can become the third largest content plumbing distributor in that region. That's what's exciting to me, domination.
That sounds just absolutely, for lack of a better word, epic.
I'm fortunate. I have really good health. I'm at a point in my life where I don't have to work. People say, why don't you retire? Because I love this.
Yeah.
Global domination in a country, and it's working. We're working with the government. We're working with the top content provider. That's exciting as hell. That's more fun than, playing golf. For me, I play a lot of pickleball. I exercise. I like surfing. But to me, what I'm doing is really my passion, and the fact that I can dominate is great. My last company, as I mentioned, we took it from 0 customers to over 300 million copies of the software deployed globally. That wasn't even dominating. Now I think I can dominate countries and be the third largest content producer. Netflix, Amazon, FutureTV.
Could you share about? I imagine you have quite a bit of competitors out there. I mean, could you share kind of perhaps some things that differentiate you from, perhaps somebody else that's trying to do what you're doing? Or
Yeah, great question. So we were recently at a big content producer in Indonesia, and they said they went to a trade show in June of 2024 looking for a complete end-to-end platform, meaning everything from the satellite reception, processing, the video translation called transcoding, the streaming, the security, Hollywood-approved security, great-looking apps with the billing so that the pay subscriber pays, with advertising so that they can monetize it. They said FutureTV was the only company they found that had the whole end-to-end solution. We compete against big companies that have good products, but they're siloed. They don't do advertising or they don't do subscriber management. We built the whole system, and because my team's so talented, we've been at it for almost 8 years now. All we do is build software, and the software works. We don't have to go and support bugs and do months and months of bug fixing. So it's been really exciting because we're a small team, but we compete feature-wise. Many times we're in a bake-off against big competitors, 200-300 employees. They'll say, when will you have this feature? I go, oh, here, push this button and it works. So we're actually ahead of the market even against these big guys. We have more features. We're more focused on just really dominating as a platform.
As far as challenges or regulations, is that something that you're having to navigate? For those in the audience who are not familiar or in your industry, so to speak, could you share? I mean, is there red tape or obstacles that can be inhibiting, or is it pretty much just putting your head down and just going at it? And it's pretty much, I don't want to say a smooth road for you, but like you pretty much know what's got to get done, like with certainty.
Because we're not producing content, it's a lot easier than if we were producing content on the regulations. Now, we do run into regulations for things like how the system needs to account for the broadcasters and things like that, but that's minor compared to, the political type regulations that are about content and what you can produce, what you can't produce. So because we're not content production, it's very easy for us to light up a country and get going.
Now, as it relates to, streaming, could you share perhaps some misconceptions that people may have or lesser known things that you wish a wider audience was aware of as it relates to streaming and what you're working on, Bob?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is, hey, there's more than just YouTube out there. That is really, it's not really technical. It's more about operators being able to deploy systems that are relevant with content, and they have good content and compete with really YouTube. YouTube dominates, Netflix dominates. So our position was, okay, they dominate. So what can we do? We can go after local content, user-generated content, local advertisers. So we're really looking at the local growth as being fueling, putting us into the third position in terms of content distribution across the country.
And as it relates to next steps, Bob, could you share what that looks like? Perhaps maybe, how users can get involved maybe with what you're doing. I mean, users, by that I meant for, of course, our audience. I mean, how they can, maybe get involved in some capacity, whether that's being an investor or something of that nature.
Yeah, so our platform is so good and so globally proven. Literally, we have about 200 systems out there globally. Now we're at a point where I want to start attacking the U.S. market. And we have some really good patents pending for the U.S. market. I want to launch a system in the U.S. that basically takes the subscription cost from $40 to $50 down to under $10. We're bringing this system out early next year. I'm looking for some funding or some financing for that. And I think we have a very disruptive technology for the U.S. It generates ad revenue plus subscriber revenue, and it undercuts everything else out there. Like one of the best, lowest price solutions right now is Hulu. And Hulu's about $45 for what we'll offer for $10. So very disruptive and very, very focused. And because the platform's done and we have content for it, we're not looking at, expensive development costs. It's more deployment. Build cities out, start with the big cities, expand, and that's really where we're going as a company in the U.S.
I imagine that, the people that currently have or have considerable influence with their companies, you mentioned, Hulu, Netflix, Apple, and so on and so forth. I imagine that they're constantly iterating and trying to do what they can to increase market share. Could you share perhaps, I'll reframe the question. Are there any other things that you see entering the foray in the streaming scene, whether that's virtual reality or whether that's some type of 3D thing or anything, or anything unique or different that you're seeing?
I'm too old school for that. I mean,
Okay.
People come and tell me what's really popular, and I say, okay, so anime, user-generated content using AI, that type of stuff. Very interesting, and we're more of a nuts and bolt distribution platform.
Got
You
it.
can put that on there, but that's not where we shine. We shine on using technology like, for example, what's really been interesting is the automated speech to voice example, subtitling. So now that gives really good Hollywood content with English language, automatic subtitling. A lot of titles are subtitled, but they're not subtitled for Indonesia, for the Philippines, for different dialects in India. And so we can do that all automatically. So we're trying to expand the operator's content offering to be competitive, because this is no exaggeration. Most of the sales calls I go on, the meeting starts with, my cable revenue is down. My satellite revenue is down. My advertising revenue is down. What do we do? Because streaming is taking over, and they're still old school. And I tell them, you got to start streaming. You got to give the streaming platform with zero buffering. People don't tolerate buffering anymore. I mean, I don't know if you remember 20 years ago, you would see the spinning circle. Now a single spinning circle, they're onto something else. So really it is wild as to what the challenges are for the operators to stay relevant. And that's what we're focused on, not from the content, but from the distribution. Bring technology to the table. Have good curation on what you might like. Even curate other services like Pluto, Tubi. Every month or two, there's a new free service out. They have thousands of movies. How do you find the movie you want? How do you even know about it? So part of our service is curating the best of. We see what you like, and we say, oh, you might like this movie. You know, you like comedies. You may never heard of, Wedding Crashers. We can start curating and bringing, more content to the people based on what you like.
Now, I presume that's some type of algorithm or something that you have to keep track of analytics or metrics that.
Yeah, exactly. So what we do is we do a lot of the looking at groups of what people like. We use AI to basically look for patterns, and we say, okay, these people have similar interests. Maybe you like bowling, and we can put bowling videos out there, that kind of thing. So we look at what the groups look at, put it into an algorithm. The AI finds patterns that you may not see as obvious. And so that's one of the strengths of AI, is just finding the patterns that are in the data, but there's so much data, you don't know how to aggregate it. The other thing we do too is we use IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, TMDB, the movie database. We use a lot of database analytics, and we crunch those together and say, okay, Rotten Tomatoes didn't like it. Well, you might like it because you like movies they don't like. So we do a lot of stuff based on what's available in the public databases, and there's tremendous amount of data out there.
Yeah, and speaking of just information in general, I mean, this information age that we're in, some have said like we're in this new renaissance, so to speak. I mean, there's so much information people have access to, and I think at times, sometimes I think society can take it for granted. I mean, it's like everything you need is now on a phone. I mean, you could be in Zimbabwe, and you're on your phone checking your $1 billion bill, or such. I mean,
Neighbor has one of those.
Yeah.
And yeah. Oh no, it's amazing. Like I like health and nutrition, and I was listening to a doctor, and he said if you ate 3 kiwis a day for 3 weeks, your eyesight will improve. And it really did. It never went back to perfect, but I can see a lot better now without glasses. And playing pickleball the other night in the dark, I didn't even know it was getting dark. People started complaining I couldn't see the ball. So there's so much information out there, and there's so much misinformation. You just really have to kind of see what makes sense. But, if you find the right kind of data, it's unbelievable what's out there, and so quickly. So another little story, I had a bunion forming. Never had a bunion. I started doing research. It said, because your toes are not spread apart. So I got a little $12 little insert for my toes. My bunion went away. Showed my wife. She called her mom. Hey, do this for your bunion. And it's just finding information. I would have never found that out on my own. Someone might have said, do bunion surgery. I don't even know what that is. But so that's the kind of, you're talking about data. There's so much out there. And you can actually use AI as a tool. Sometimes AI gets it wrong, but sometimes you can use that as an accelerator for finding data. I mean, it's better than a search engine. And so you can augment your understanding of things and your learning using AI. As you go to Copilot and you put in there like, okay, what about this? And then you say, tell me more. And then you'll see it kind of fizzle out, but you'll get a lot of data quickly, faster than a web search. So with all that data out there, it's accessing it that also makes it beneficial.
You mentioned the term aggregation earlier, and access to information. And I've been observing is because there's so much information, there's such a flood of it's like, do I go this route? Do I go that route? I think people are going to want to be going to either individuals or a company where it's aggregated. It's all, here it is. It's all buttoned up. Here's everything that's been extrapolated, extracted from the web and such. And so, whether it comes to ideation on different business ventures or how to approach something, that was something I was that I'd been more in tune of. Is there's so much information, but it's like people want to it can be overwhelming and such. As, hey, I just want to go to one source. How can I get all the meat and potatoes, everything I need? So
yeah, exactly. And that's where influencers are, dominating. I mean, if you look at 20 years ago, there was no such thing as an influencer. Very few, maybe Tony Robbins type influencer, but now there's so many different influencers. my wife, she's a mortgage broker. She has her own brokerage, and she has a client who's, I want to say he's 27, and he's an influencer in car parts. And he makes about $1.3 million a year. And that's his passion. He loves cars. He loves car parts. He's an influencer. Makes $1.3 million a year. Gets $100,000 checks from YouTube. So that's the kind of, you find people who are so specialized and passionate and knowledgeable that they're going to become more important than, your auto parts store or a book on it. Or, so you're exactly right on that. It's going to be influencers. It's going to be people who build a reputation over time, aren't crazy, don't ruin it, and have the knowledge.
Yeah, I think that's just, that is just incredible, right? At 26, and it's not like he's having to do some traditional role like work in finance or something. He's clearly doing something he enjoys with the automotive industry. And people can be in these have some esoteric interest and make a wonderful life for themselves and live on their terms. And it's just incredible.
It is incredible. And it's going to get even more so because that kind of knowledge is spreading beyond YouTube. As I mentioned, many of our customers use our user-generated content to build regional influencers. Even if they're making money on just, let's say they're a regional star, TV star. They could do birthday parties. They can do a lot of stuff promoting through a non-YouTube platform for that region because the operator's interested because it brings more people to his channel, and the influencers that are interested because it's more regionally based. So you're seeing regional influencers start making good money too, and that builds more and more influencers, and the whole thing.
Absolutely. Wanted to segue to kind of more about you and your personal background and story. Could you share, I guess, starting off, has there been a particular person that's had the most impact on your life?
I think it was more of a team, but it was led by the guy Marco Thompson in terms of technology. In terms of just life, my dad was great, hardworking, never complained, and whatever. Like, I live very simply, and he lived very simply. So it was very great to see a hardworking person happy. So I'm very happy. I don't need a lot. And it's good.
Do you have an interest or a quality that might come as a surprise to the audience or people?
No, I'm pretty boring. I wish I did.
Well, I know you're doing quite a bit of stuff even outside of FutureTV and other stuff you're working on. I know you mentioned about you enjoy surfing and pickleball.
Oh yeah, and I've been a big brother, and I sponsor health camps in India. So there's a lot I do because I've been fortunate. Just great life, happy, no problems. So I want to give back. So we even do things like we adopt dogs for veterans when they're on leave. So we'll take a dog in and watch the dog for 3 or 4 months. The veteran's off overseas. And so that's been great. I recently got on a aircraft carrier going out 150 miles off of San Diego, watching them do all their testing, their training. That was exciting. And so stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot I'm involved in. And I really like giving back. I was big brother. That was great. My little brother became a Marine. Now he's bigger than me. And I was the second most influential man in his life. His grandfather was. He didn't have a father, single mom. And I was big brother for about 7 years, and we're still keeping contact. And he's 45 now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that was great. So a lot of good stuff.
Wow. I by the way, I did not realize, you mentioned he's 45 now, that I always thought of it as being like a kid, like someone very young, but I didn't realize.
No. We were done when he was.
Oh, gosh. Oh, got it. Now I get it.
No, but we're still keeping contact.
Brain freeze on my. Okay, I do brain freeze on my part. Excuse me. Now I get it. How about the thing? And I presume that may be it. But one or two things that you're most proud of so far that you've accomplished in life.
Well, my son's doing great. He's a molecular biologist, and when he was in 6th grade, I took him to the UCSD bookstore, and he was into biology, and I said, check out the textbooks see what's your next level of book you want to buy to learn. He pulled out a book. I started asking him questions. I knew none of the answers, but I said, I could see he knew the answers. It was third year university biology, and he was in sixth grade. He's just doing great in that field. And I think the people around me now are really, they give back. My friends are, pretty, how do I say it? They give back as well. So people are very appreciative. So I think it's just being, out there and helping people, and in whatever little ways. I almost never negative, almost never give anyone flack. I'm always, if someone's having an argument, I try to diffuse it. So I don't know. That's just.
Yeah, that's something that I try to, do better in is being more positive. I've actually been reading one of Wayne Dyer's books, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, which is I think just a great read. It's basically, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's basically Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching, his 81 verses. And I just read a verse a morning, but it's just, for me, it's like a reminder to, there's a time and a place, I feel like, for everything. Like, obviously we're all ambitious here. Otherwise we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. But there's a time to, pick and choose your battles and see yourself in everybody, whether people subscribe to God or the universe. We're all, whether people subscribe to us being all stardust at one point. I mean, we're all interconnected. And so I liked your message about, gratitude and, to just betterment and such.
Yeah, just be positive, be happy. Yeah, I'm going to check that book out because I'm very happy, and, it's great. It's like, I don't need much to be happy because I'm happy. Inside job.
Absolutely. And as far as, books or information or podcasts, what do you go to? What's your go-to sources for extracting information from the world around us so you can make more sound assumptions? Could you perhaps share that, or books that you read to help you in your development?
Yeah, so I did a lot of personal growth back in the early 2000s, actually earlier than that, in the 90s. And it was more about breathing and meditation. And you mentioned...
yeah, that was, yeah.
And it really was breathing and being aware of my thoughts that really helped me change my life. Like, why do I think that way? And by breathing, if you breathe, you become more aware of yourself, and you have more nutrients in your body and oxygen in your brain, and you can think clearer. So that's where I went through a lot of personal growth. And at the time, this was actually, now I'm thinking about it, it was 1983. I was at TRW, engineer. They wanted to promote me to management. I wanted to stay technical. They brought me in the HR and said, hey, we got good news for you. Now you're a section lead. I got better news for you, I said. They said, what's that? Here's my 2-week notice. I did not want to be management. I wanted to stay technical. And from there, I started doing self-awareness, personal growth, breathing, meditating. And literally, I went from $35,000 a year to about $110,000 a year as a consultant in the same field, doing what I love. And this was 84 now, because I left at 83, started consulting. And at that time, the whole world came to the U.S. for technical knowledge. So we had people coming from all over the world looking to basically get technology. Sony came to San Diego, Kyocera, all these, so many companies were concentrating engineering in the U.S. That's all been spread out now because of YouTube and, great stuff online. But back then it was really the personal growth, breathing, meditating, and being self-aware.
That has had such a profound impact on my life. And it, I've had so many great people on the podcast, over time. And one of the common threads that I've seen is it's just really the basics. It's funny. I feel like in life, I mean, at least at one point that was me. And I'm obviously learning something new every day and growing. People are always looking for a secret, or they're always looking for, hey, what's kind of the edge? And I feel like it's really just the basics overall. It's just showing up.
I think it's the Buddhists who say the road to enlightenment is chopping wood and carrying water. Being enlightened is chopping wood and carrying water.
I feel like, society can have a tendency to overcomplicate it. It's very simple. You mentioned meditating. I know it sounds trite and people talk about it, but it's so damn true. I mean, it makes a huge freaking difference. At least it has for me. I do it actually throughout the day, and it just, in my opinion, sometimes I feel like during the day we can get so mired or not mired. Yeah, we're just so focused like a tunnel. But then when we take that pause, even if it's just a nanosecond, and it just, your consciousness just expands, and you're able to take in more information and assess and make more sound decisions. And I feel like, it's just the basic simple things. Yeah.
A deep breath will work wonders. If you get like someone cuts you off, you're driving.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe someone's hurt and they're going to see it. You can't make
100%.
Yeah, so that's the breathing is great, and like you say, having some time meditating is great. We need balance.
100%. So, I encounter a lot of people. Fortunate to say, a lot of great, very successful people. What are your thoughts on balance in life? I mean, we've heard some people out there that we see on TV. They say you got to work 15 hours a day for 10 years. Some don't do the vacations or et cetera. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, what would you have done in hindsight, knowing what you know now?
Yeah. Well, back in, I think it was around 2004, I sold a small software business to Connexon, a big Rockwell Semiconductor. I took 2 years off because it made some good money, and I was surfing every day. I was skiing. And that became like a job to me. But what I noticed was my brain was losing it. I was atrophying. I wasn't as sharp. And so surfing became like work. It wasn't as pleasurable. I went back to work. I was so happy. So I have a balance. I like cooking. I like gardening. I love work. I work a lot of hours, but it's not like I'm grinding, burning out. People say, how do you avoid burnout? Balance. You have to have time to do what you love in different areas, and then your work doesn't seem like you're just grinding.
Seems like you're in a state of flow.
Yeah.
In a sense.
That's a good way of, I've never thought of it.
Yeah, I think that's like a Taoism thing where it's just like, and I know we've gone from talking about your background, media and all this, but I think it's so important. It's so important. It's interesting because I feel like sometimes in life, less is more. I feel like it's like, I didn't take economics in school, but I guess it's one of the first things people learn early on is the law of diminishing returns. We're putting in more hours of work, thinking it's going to come back, when in fact, a little less work, a little more time to just decompress, reset, will make you even more successful.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, that's just like, for me, I feel like I've always previously was really in that balance. Now I feel like I'm kind of like, okay, I think I kind of know what I need to do, but I don't know if you have any other further comments on as it relates to that. And yeah.
Like you're on the right path and breathe, drink water, get sleep. I mean,
yeah,
chopping wood, carrying water.
Absolutely.
Simple. And then you expand from it. Like, for example, like I said, for me, I'm fortunate I don't have to work as hard as I do, but I enjoy it because I see domination. So when you have the ability to kind of breathe and take a step back and say, really, what do I want to do? It's not build a little business, not, things that 20 years ago would have been great. Oh, I'm going to build a business. I'm going to be, things I can go and do whatever I want with it, sell it or whatever. That was great, but it took me to the point where because of the successes I've had, now it's not about that. It's about what's the next level? Oh, domination. Can I build a business that is the third largest content distributor, not producer, but distributor, the plumbing, the platform in a country? And so that's what's exciting now. You get to build on your success. You get to build on the fact that you can be balanced, figure out things, think clearly, and look at new opportunities.
As it relates to what you've shared, how about advice that you would like to dispense to the audience, whether that's personal or professional advice that you'd like to share?
Well, I think the first thing is just eat healthy, do a little exercise, breathe, take care of your body, because when your body's healthy, now you have more options. Like you hear people, they say, I wish I would have taken better care of my body. Well, do it now. There's no reason not to do that. So I think that's the first thing. If you're healthy and your body's functioning, you have more options. I think that's the number one thing. Look at your passions. Maybe your passion is such that it's not going to make money, but it's going to make you happy. So, you've got to have some passion in your life. You have to have some good friends, but it's balance. Just be balanced and start with a healthy body. So that's to me the important thing.
And as what advice would you have for your younger self? Perhaps when you're first starting off and you just graduated from high school, you're in high school, and what would you tell your younger self?
It would be more when I got out of college. Don't be as intense as you are. Early on, I was intense, really intense, and not in a bad way, but just like, hey, if you don't know, get out of my way. And I didn't need to be that intense. It all would come together, even without being the intensity I had. And that would be my thing. And things are going to work out. I eventually got there, and I would say, don't worry about it. Don't worry, be happy.
Awesome.
And be less intense.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned that. I've heard that from another person, and just taking it easy and everything's going to be okay. I mean, obviously, I feel like when we're trying to get to where we want to be, there's a sense of there could be a sense of being anxious and uncertainty. I'm not sure, but just recognizing, hey, whether you or the audience subscribes to God or the universe, everything will work out so long as you are putting in the work that needs to be done and you're having that balance. Don't stress it, just one bite at a time kind of thing.
Yeah, realize it's a journey. It's not an end point destination. It's a journey, and you start off here thinking this is what I want to do. And as you go through that journey, you should be adopting new views. You should be expanding your kind of concepts. And so the end point you thought you were going to get to, that you worked so hard, if you kind of acclimate to the journey, you're going to end up in a better place. It's like you go to a town and you go, this is what I want to see. And then you go see something else and it's really interesting. It's like, be flexible and realize the journey is as important as the end point. And, making money, you can always make money. That shouldn't be an end point. It should be, can I be happy? Can I feel great about myself? Feel like I'm doing what I want to do and helping people? That's more important than, making money. Making money, you can make money, but at the end of the day, are you going to be happy when it's your last breath? That's what you have to think
about. Yeah. And Bob, how can people get in touch with you, learn more about you and FutureTV, and be a part of your venture and story?
Yeah, so we're on the web at www.futuretv, like television.tv. Our website is not like super snazzy because we're really geared towards a certain market. As we build the U.S. Product, we'll be updating our website, but that's where we're at. And then, I'm just available there, and contact information's there.
Well, awesome. Well, Bob, thanks so much for making an appearance on the show and sharing your thoughts and dispensing advice. And looking forward to having you on down the road and sharing the latest update with FutureTV and what you're working on.
Great, and thank you for having me. And I'm glad we went down a road of self-awareness, self-improvement. To me, that's more important than what I'm doing in my business.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, consider liking, subscribing, and following Discourse with Christian on social media. And I look forward to hearing your feedback. Thanks.